Hello, my busy bees. How are you all doing today? So today I got a bit of a scandalous topic. Yes, I know. Pretty controversial. But I I used to trace art. I know it's crazy. We'll get into it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get into it. Alright, so my tracing days, they go all the way back to elementary school. So like I told you on the previous video, I first started taking art seriously back when my teacher saw a drawing on one of my homework assignments and was like, yo, you should keep doing this for the rest of your life. And then at that moment, I knew I was going to pursue art as a career. But what happened shortly after that is, for some reason in my little kid brain, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to be the best at it. All right, which is a crazy mentality to have as a 9-year-old. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I need to be the best one in my entire class, so instead of taking the long route, which is just develop my skills, which I technically still took the long route, but in that moment I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna trace, right? Because I learned how to trace back in like kindergarten when we was doing it for like a project or something. I don't remember what art project we were doing, but we were like tracing our own art. I don't know, it was weird. But I was like, let me use this, but instead I'm gonna trace the covers of other like children's books. That's what I'm gonna do. So what I would do is I would lay a piece of paper over a children's book, a thin piece of paper, and then I would trace it and color it in, and I'd be like, look, I drew this, and the teacher and everything and the students were always like, oh my god, that's so cool. But after like the second time I did that, I was like, look at the drawing I made. One of the students was like, you didn't draw that, you literally just traced it, so like you didn't draw it. I was like, ooh, not me getting caught in my tracks on the second try. And so I stopped tracing. I was like, I can't be caught up in that like lie again, so I was like, no, I didn't trace, So then after that, I started heavily referencing instead. And this is where I feel like my art was actually improving without me noticing it, because like I would reference it over and over and over again. I was going through so many sheets of paper where I was trying to draw what was on a children's book. And I would draw it over and over and over again until I was like, this looks exactly like the cover. And then I would show everyone that, and if they were like, you traced that, I'd be like, no, look. And then I would overlay it with the freaking book or whatever and be like, see, the lines and stuff don't match up because I didn't trace it. And they'd be like, oh my god, wow. Like, oh my god, you didn't trace it, wow. Oh my god. Yeah, this dates back to elementary school. Tracing is not an original thought. Wow, I was doing that way back in the day. That's crazy. Anyway, shortly after that, I really wanted to start drawing my own things. Like, I was kind of tired of drawing these like children's books, so I veered off and like started doing my own thing, like comic books. I was really into making comic books as a kid. Still kind of am. I still have OCs, I still want to make a comic book at some point. I'll figure that out eventually. But yeah, really into making comics, really into making my own characters. So I kind of got off the track of like referencing other people's art and like children's books and stuff, because I wanted to make my own stuff. So yeah, I mean, there was another era in like middle school where I was tracing again because I wanted to do realism, and I was like, I can't do realism, but I want everyone to think that I can, so I would trace and show everyone like, yo, look at this, look at what I drew, ha. And I only did that a few times as well before I was like, all right, I want to actually learn how to do this. So then I went back to the heavily referencing technique and relearned, and then I learned how to draw realism through that, so it's like, okay. But like, I just redid what I did in elementary school and then went back on track afterwards. So I don't know. That's my experience with tracing though. Yeah, and yay. So, side tangent of the day. I know. But I got two things I want to mention with you guys. Alright. First thing first. My Ko-Fi shop has in fact been updated. I know I updated all the brush packs to what I use more so than anything else. I literally use these brushes all the time. So if you're trying to up your art game, or you just want your art to somewhat resemble mine, you know, you're trying to follow along in these videos, go check them out. They're only for Procreate, but I have been thinking of trying out Ibis Paint, because I would also like to make brushes for you guys that like draw in there as well. So go check out the Ko-Fi brushes. The ones that I mostly use, if I'm going to recommend any to you, are the Soft and Simple from the Soft and Simple palette, the Sharp and Bold from the Sharp and Bold palette. I use all of them, but like those are the two that I mainly use. After that, like I genuinely do use all of these. So yeah, go check out the Ko-Fi shop. Second that I wanted to mention. In this video, this is actually the last art raffle winner that I'll be drawing in a video. So after this, I'm actually planning to start drawing my own OCs, because you know what, I'll get into that next week. But if y'all don't know, July is coming up, and if you know about my videos that I used to have posted on this channel, you know what goes down in July. So I'll see y'all then. The reason I'm bringing up my horrible past of tracing and stealing art when I was a wee little jit is because it actually helped me improve my art. I know. You know, I would like to apologize to the children book authors and random pictures of celebrities that I was tracing, you know, and claiming it as my own art. Listen, all right, my bad. Don't do that. If you are tracing, don't ever just be like, I fully drew this is my art in the fullest. Don't do that. That's where it's wrong. But if you are tracing art to learn, that's fine. You can trace art to learn. Let me explain why. Okay, because art, a lot of people think art is just in the brain. I mean, technically, yeah, but technically, no. Like, it's not just mental knowledge. It's also physical practice. Like, think about learning how to drive, okay? You have to take a written test, which is just basic knowledge of the road, okay? Gotta know how the signs work, gotta know how the roads work, gotta know what to do in certain situations. And then you know that mentally, yeah. But then you also need to learn how to execute it physically, which takes its own completely separate form of practice. You gotta actually get in the car and drive around, and things that you knew on the written test, you're like, I know about that. I know how to, you know, go about this thing. But then when you are actually in the car and you're in that situation, all of a sudden you can't do it. All of a sudden you're like, bro, I knew what to do here, but I couldn't execute it. It's because you needed the physical practice as much as you needed the written practice. It's the same thing with art. You are going to understand things. You can get taught different methods, different techniques, and you can get shown these different methods and techniques. But until you're actually putting the pencil to paper and practicing the motions and practicing with your hands, the things that you know in your head are not going to be executed properly. Which is why I see a lot of artists get discouraged as well, because they're like, I know how to do it, but then it just doesn't work, and so I give up. No. It's just, you need practice at that point. Yes, just practice. Genuinely, you could just be drawing circles over and over again and get better at art. if you have the written knowledge, if you have the, you know, techniques in mind. This isn't going to work for beginners who don't even really know what they're doing. This is genuinely for people who have like been trying to up their art game. But yeah, tracing can actually help, because that'll help with the muscle memory. That'll help your hand understand, oh, that's how I move my hand to make that line. That's how I move my hand to draw this shape. You know, it'll help in that form. So tracing to practice is actually very beneficial. And I'm a proud believer of that, clearly, because as you guys now know, I used to trace in my past, and look at my art now. The PNG you see on the screen Hey, wouldn't have been there if I didn't trace here and there as a kid, you know, didn't heavily reference here and there as a kid. So yeah, now y'all know. Y'all know a little tip for practicing. Quick outro because I already know this video is like 11 minutes long. Thank y'all for buzzing on by. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below if you think tracing is a good form of practice. You think it's a good form of practice? Because if you don't, I don't know, argue with someone about it. Because I believe it's a good form of practice. I genuinely do. Anyway, I'll see y'all around. Buzz buzz.